Welcome to A1R Psychic Radio here on Moonstruck TV with Amanda Hall Psychic, all the way from the Gold Coast here in Australia. We can certainly tell the seasons are changing here. We're heading towards winter and it's getting a little bit chilly first thing in the morning here. I know for our viewers in the Northern Hemisphere it's late in the afternoon for you guys, but for me in Australia it's early morning and it's crisp and it's nice and it's fresh, and it's always nice to be up at this time of the day, isn't it, when, you know, the new day is dawning and you start to sort of gather your thoughts and think about where your life's heading. And I think that's been a motto for a lot of people recently is, you know, we're starting to come to terms with COVID-19 and the practicalities and the realities and the changes that are going to be here to stay for some time to come yet. And we're starting to look at, well, let's bring some stability into our lives. Let's try and get a new direction, a new handle on where we're going. What's our new normal? So it's interesting that the Simply Tarot card of the week this week has just coincided with what I've been talking about, the Emperor. The Emperor is the card of stability or stabilising influences coming into your life. And I don't think there's many of us that wouldn't put our hand up and say, I'd like a little bit more stability. I'd like a little bit more certainty. I'd like to understand where my life is going from here. It's sort of, we've lived in this sort of topsy-turvy world for what seems like such a long time now, with nothing's reliable or dependable other than there's going to be change, and things can change at a moment's notice. That's the only stabilising factor we've had since COVID-19 started, is expect the unexpected. So it's been a really difficult time for a lot of people to sort of come to terms with those changes and are just looking to sort of breathe a sigh of relief and say, finally, I start to feel as if there's a stabilising influence around me, that I've got something rock solid under my feet. I've got some plans, I've got some direction now, I've got everything sort of worked out. If they pull a snap lockdown, we know what we're going into, we know what we need to do. And if they start easing restrictions, well, that's well and good, we can start opening our lives up more. So it's going to be moving, I think, in the next few months. A lot of places around the world are going to have lots of changes connected with COVID. Here in Australia, as we're heading into winter, we're sort of bracing ourselves for maybe another wave of COVID, even though we've had our borders slammed shut internationally for such a long time now. It still seems to be coming in through those borders with, you know, people returning home or coming here for some reason or another that have an exemption to come to Australia. And even though they go into quarantine, it still doesn't mean that this little pesky virus can't sort of escape quarantine and get its way back out into the general public. So it's interesting this week because I want to move on to the astrology section now. We've got a really major, astrologically, a lot of people are clapping their hands and jumping up and down and saying this is a major event. I mean, look, we have a full moon every month. We have super full moons a couple of times a year, and, you know, we have the odd lunar eclipse. So, you know, it's not as if it's a once-in-a-lifetime event, almost the way the media and people are painting this. Yes, we are moving into a full moon, which is going to be a lunar eclipse, and yes, it is a super moon. And the best part about all this is it's in Sagittarius. And the reason I'm saying that, because my personal way of looking at a lunar eclipse, disregarding of whether it's a full moon, but just the lunar eclipse, it allows us to press the reset button. Now, isn't that something we've all been feeling like we've wanted to do for some time now, is to just push the stop, press the reset button, and let's start again in a fresh, different sort of way, you know, with a lot more confidence in ourselves that we know where we're going moving forward. Now, any full moon is a time where we need to release our pent-up emotions. Now, you know, pent-up emotions aren't just what we've gathered in the last 28 to 30 days. These can be old emotions. These can go back 40 years, 50 years, 10 years, 2 years. There's lots of different emotions that we hang on to. It's sort of like we gather them up and we put them away in the back of our mind in case they become useful later on. I don't really understand that concept of why we do it, but we all do it. And at the time, it makes perfect logical sense at why we would retain that information, that memory, that emotion, whatever it may be, and why we think we're going to need it further on. Now, so full moons are about emptying that emotional bucket each month. And for many people, that's sort of something that comes easily. And for other people, it doesn't come easily at all. And some people say, well, how many times can we keep letting go or emptying a bucket, Amanda? Well, it's not about every month that we've got a bucket full of things that we've got to emotionally release or let go of. It may just be that something's come to a conclusion, or you've released something from the subconscious or the unconscious part of your mind and you're ready to set it free. It serves no purpose in your life anymore. So sometimes it can be just simple little things. It can be letting go of old emotions that really have no consequence on your life. For me personally, this full moon lunar eclipse, because I'm a Sagittarian, I'm really taking this opportunity to hit the reset button. I just think it's a good sort of halfway year point, sort of saying, okay, we're nearly halfway through the year. Let's sort of, stop, take a minute, analyse what's happened in this first 5 months of this year and sort of hit the reset button, almost a bit like another New Year's celebration. Let's sort of go for the next 6-7 months and see what we can bring out of 2021. So I actually feel quite excited. For most of us, it can be a time where we're feeling a little bit more energy than normal. Some people are saying they can't sleep, but some people say they can't sleep at any full moon. So those poor creatures that have that difficulty once a month, my heart goes out to you, because this full moon lunar eclipse is going to be more intense. The energy is going to be more vibrant and alive. So therefore, you may have more difficulty sleeping. But for most of us, it's going to be increase in energy, sometimes feeling a little bit preoccupied. So we need to be aware that we're not going to be a little bit snappy and snarly when someone interrupts our train of thought, and how dare they ask us a question or ask us for information when we were busy looking at what we were releasing and letting go of and how we're setting the reset button for ourselves. That how dare they interrupt that, flowing thoughts and, positive energies that we're utilising for ourselves, and they want a question answered. That's a bit inconvenient. So we need to be a little bit aware of that too. But for most of us, it's going to be a time where we're sort of feeling like we've made some completion phases, that we can empty the emotional buckets. We're starting to feel excited and motivated for the future. We're starting to expand our thinking out now. We're looking at things, not necessarily for many of us can we book an overseas trip or even contemplate long distance travel at the moment, but our mind is certainly going that way, that we're sort of expanding our horizons, even if it is only travelling, armchair travelling as I call it at the moment, that we can't actually physically do it, but we can do it in our mind, or watch a documentary on the telly that sort of takes us off to a far-flung place that sort of the water always looks better somewhere else, and the sun always looks brighter, and the beach looks better, and or the mountains or the skiing or whatever it may be. But sometimes that's enough to sort of just recharge our emotional batteries too, by doing a little bit of armchair travelling and daydreaming about what could be if we were there and how it's going to make us feel. And I think even more so this year than even this time last year, when we're in the full thrust of COVID and so many things were so uncertain, we've had, a good 14, 15, 16 months now of constant change, of constantly not knowing what tomorrow is going to bring, not being able to make any long-range plans or even book functions and plan weddings and birthday parties and travel to see our family and friends. So, we're just sort of starting to come to terms with this humdrum existence of constantly being in a feeling of change, that now we just sort of want to be able to sort of hit the reset button and say, okay, I'm going to start making just some decisions, even if they don't pan out or our travel plans don't pan out because there's a change. We just shrug our shoulders and say, oh, well, we'll try again later on. So, we're sort of becoming a little bit more accepting of things in our lives at the moment. So the full moon lunar eclipse will take place in the next 24 hours wherever you are in this amazing planet of ours. So check your local guides to be able to view the full moon eclipse. Here in Australia, where I am locally, we're not expecting to be able to see it because Mother Nature's going to bring us a little pitter-patter of rain, and so it's going to be cloudy and we're going to miss the wonderful event, but we'll certainly be there in spirit, that's for sure. So the other exciting news this week is the sun's changed energy and it's moved into the sign of Gemini. Now, I always get excited at this time of the year when we get into the Gemini side of the year. No, I'm not a Gemini. It is the opposite sign from Sagittarius, but it just sort of says to me, after we've had a very full-on, intense, slow down sort of month of the energy being in Taurus, where we really had to stop, look and listen. We had to reevaluate everything. We had to put everything under the microscope, particularly our personal belief systems and our security and our finances and our family. And it's sort of like, it seems like it was a very hard going month in that way, because there was so much there that we had to look at, and we had to go through and make sure that we've got shored up for the next 12 months. It's like, oh, somebody's just opened the window and in comes that breath of fresh air with having the Gemini energy around us. So that's why I get excited about it, because it's like, oh, wow, everything's lightening up. We can sort of start to sort of get out and about and enjoy the environment a little bit more in our own local environment. People are a little bit more chit-chatty. People seem to feel a little bit freer and easier when the sun's in Gemini. And there also seems to be sort of usually quite a lot of activity at this time. If you take a little bit of notice in your own local area, there's an increase in rock concerts or events or expos or sculpture exhibitions or whatever the case may be. It sort of seems to be a very popular time of the year, no matter where you live in this world of ours, in the Gemini time of the year, where there's a lot more activity going on in your local environment, which is nice. We all need to be able to move forward, I think, a little bit and take our time to be able to sort of enjoy what's right on our doorstep. And I think even more so than any other year, we need to be able to have that little bit of frivolity and a little bit of pleasure in our lives, and to get out and just to feel normal, to be able to take a walk in your local environment and buy an ice cream cone and just enjoy the weather and to be outdoors and to feel free. I think that's a luxury that many of us 12 months ago didn't know whether we were ever going to experience again or when it was going to happen. So let's take this opportunity to really celebrate this time of the year. It's also a great time of the year if you're looking to sort of bring in some new bright ideas into your life. If you're a creative sort of person, you'll find a lot of creative ideas will start flowing. So don't forget to always have your phone or your device with you so you can record those brainwave moments, and a sketch pad if you're an artist, that you can get those ideas down on paper. It's a very positive, carefree sort of time. Loads of communication, lots of people sort of feeling a little bit happier in themselves, a little bit freer, wanting to have a chit-chat where, a week ago they were in too much of a hurry and they had too many things to do. I'll catch up with you soon. There's just been so many tragedies and so much doom and gloom for such a long period of time. You can't blame people for saying, I turn off the news now, I can't handle anymore, I'm in overload, I don't want to know about it. If it's really that urgent, somebody will send me a message about it. I don't need to sit there and be constantly glued to such doom and gloom. And, there's just so much going on in politics around the world that you want to shut yourself away from that as well. It's sort of like every country, every nation seems to have its own dramas at the moment, whether it's vaccine rollouts or people don't like who's in government and who said this or somebody said that. And it's just sort of like everybody felt their head was exploding. So it's now time to sort of empty that out of your mind, empty it out of your soul, and let's move forward. And we're going to talk with Kerry in Kent in England. Are you there, Kerry?
I am, yes.
Do you have a question I could work with, please, Kerry?
I've lost someone, and I was really, really close to her. I just want to know if she's all right.
Okay, now that's a really tricky one, Kerry, because when somebody like that chooses to sort of disappear from our radar, so to speak, we don't quite understand whether it's a deliberate choice or are they in some sort of trouble. I'm feeling your friend made this choice willingly. It's something that they decided to do. I'm not saying it's something I would consider to be normal of character of this person. This seems to be very much out of character. But for them, they got to a point where they felt they needed to just shut the door on the world. It was like, I have to get off this merry-go-round. And I think they've done this on purpose. It doesn't mean that there's anything wrong. I don't think they're in any physical sort of danger or anything like that. I don't believe that they're unwell. I just feel for their own emotional well-being, they had to sort of just shut the world out for a little while. Look, I do feel that you will hear from this person again. I wish I could say it was going to be this week, Kerry. I still think there's probably another 3 or 4 weeks before you're going to hear something. And when you do, it's going to be very basic. It's not going to be a lot of information. It could just be something as simple as a text message where they're just sending you a message and saying, just letting you know I'm okay, don't worry, be in contact soon. And you think, well, what in the hell does all that mean? But it's just their way of, they've realised the fact that you're going to be concerned and they want you to not worry. I do feel that there was a family situation that came up just prior to this that you may not have been privy to, which was the final sort of straw where they sort of felt that they just needed to step off the merry-go-round for a little while and let everybody else sort out their own issues. They didn't want to get involved and didn't want to be dragged into it. So I hope that's helped you, Kerry, because it's always concerning when someone makes a choice like this, is it not?
Yes, definitely.
And particularly when it's out of character for them, you know, when they're usually the strong one. You know, they're the one that everybody turns to. And that makes it harder for us to understand. But even the strongest of people, Kerry, have a point of no return where they say, enough, I can't deal with this anymore. You know, that sometimes they've got to safeguard themselves. And that's what I feel your friend's done here, that rather than sort of have some sort of emotional breakdown, which they wouldn't allow themselves to do anyway, they've taken this choice to sort of say, look, I'll just get out of the mess for a little while, give myself time to heal and put things into perspective. I appreciate people are going to be worried and concerned, but I have to do this for me. And it's sort of, you know, it's selfish reasons, but I think they're very logical selfish reasons, where if they hadn't have done that, I think their world would have spiraled more out of control than what it did. But as I said, they are fine. They're in no danger. They're certainly not in any danger in any way, emotionally, physically, or anything like that. And when they do come back, they'll be stronger, but they'll also have a clearer direction of what they will and won't accept in their lives. And you'll be one of the first people that they contact. And even when, you know, your friend does contact you, she's asking you not to let anybody else know that, you know, that they want to keep this under wraps, that, you know, like, yes, you can say, I've heard from her and she's fine, but that's it. You know, you're not to elaborate on any details that she shares with you. That is her prerogative of what they want to share when the time's right. So I hope that's helped you, Kerry. Just keep strong, keep sending them positive energy, and everything will be okay.
Thank you.
You're very welcome, Kerry. Have a nice night, sweetie. We're going to talk with Sharae in Minneapolis, in Minnesota, in the USA. Are you there, Sharae?
Yep, I'm here.
Do you have a question I can work with, please, sweetie?
Huh?
Do you have a question I can answer for you?
Question. Well, I have a lot of questions, but I'll have to think of one.
Okay.
I guess it would probably be current relationship.
Okay. All right. The first thing that I was picking up while you were thinking about your question to our show, Ray, was they were showing me that there's been a lot of endings, changes and transformation in your life over this last couple of months. Would that be a fair comment that, you know, there's been a lot of things that have come to a close, a lot of things that you had to close off yourself? And I'm not talking about the relationship here. I'm talking about other areas of your life.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
Because they were showing me these things had to take place before you could get to the point of looking at the relationship and what does the relationship bring to the table? What is your expectations of it? I just sort of feel this current relationship, to me, it's like it's got a lot of holes in it. It's like I want to plug a lot of things up. I'm not saying it's necessarily the wrong relationship for you. I'm saying to you there's been a lot of things there that are sort of, well, I'd like more out of it, or I'd like more consistency, or I'd like more answers. It's like I'm left sort of with like fresh air around it. It's like I want to feel like I want to plug the hole up. Look, I don't know that the person in the relationship with you necessarily understands how you're feeling. From their point of view, everything's A-okay. They don't feel that there's anything wrong with the relationship or anything that needs changing or improving or fixing. So that makes it difficult when the other person doesn't understand quite where you're coming from and why you feel not so much you want to end it, but you feel that there could be so much more, that, we should be able to be moving this relationship on to the next level. And I agree with you, we should be able to, but we can't do that if we haven't completed sort of like this level of the relationship. Is there a real issue with communication there, Share?
Yeah, there can be. Yeah. Yeah.
But is that more the fact that the other person doesn't know how to express themselves?
Yeah, kind of, yeah. They're pretty quiet and don't talk about things much, yeah.
Yeah, because that's what I felt. It wasn't the fact that they didn't have any love for you or any emotions. It's like they just don't know how to put it into words. It can sound good in their head, and then when they go to open their mouth, nothing comes out. And, that's, we're all wired different ways. So, not everybody's the world's greatest communicator, and particularly talking about emotions. But, sometimes the spoken word or the written word isn't always the answer to the situation. We've got to look at people's actions. Actions speak louder than words in most cases. And I mean, this other person to me doesn't seem to be showing you actions of someone that's not happy or is looking to move on from the relationship. It's quite the opposite. It's just they're not the world's greatest communicator. They're the sort of person, oh, well, I've told you I loved you once. How many more times do you need to know I've told you once? That should suffice for a lifetime. And, that's not always, we as human beings need that reassurance, that constant reassurance of somebody telling us that they love us, or we look beautiful, or we're handsome, or whatever the case may be. That's part of how we're wired as human beings. But look, I do feel that the relationship will grow. I do feel that there is more to come from this, but I think you both need to look at and understand the other person's needs a little bit more. And maybe you can sort of share with them, look, I appreciate you're not much of a talker, but, maybe you can express your love or show your feelings in other ways. Sometimes people, share a song with their loved one, and that tells you everything you need to know how I feel about you, because they can't put it into words themselves. I just sort of feel that there's so many other changes going on around you, Share, that you're sort of getting bogged down on the relationship and where it's going, to try and avoid looking at the other issues in your life that need sort of sorting out. It's more about you yourself are ready for change. And I don't mean a change of relationship, but changes in other areas of your life. And it's like, oh, well, if I look at the relationship, I don't have to deal with what's over there. So I think you need to be a little bit more open and honest with yourself, that if things are coming into your mind's eye that need to be looked at or addressed, then that's what we need to be looking at. The relationship to me looks quite solid. It's just that you're sort of focusing on that maybe a little bit too much, instead of looking at other areas of, why am I feeling so restless? Why do I feel incomplete? What are the other areas that are lacking in my life that maybe if I address those and sort those out, I won't then be looking to sort of focus all my energy on the relationship and saying, well, that's not right, because really nothing much has changed in that. He hasn't suddenly not become a talker. I mean, what you see is what you get in this way it's always been. It's just now it's more illuminated, I suppose is what I'm saying, Share.
Well, yeah, and it's been a long, I mean, we've been together a long, long time. And
yeah, well, he's not going to, they're not going to change, darling. People don't change.
No. It's just like, okay, so where is this going? Are we just staying where we are? Do we have all these kids? Is this what we're doing? Or you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, but I do feel it is going to go to the next level. I do think it's going to get stronger. There's more of a commitment coming out of this. And I think, by you sort of starting to take action in other areas of your life, whether it's your job or working on yourself or doing things for you, that will make that other person think, oh, hang on a minute, I better step up my game a little bit. I could lose her. So, that's really important, I think, that you start to focus on you. And I don't mean out looking for another relationship. I don't mean that.
No.
I mean, starting to satisfy things in your life that make you feel happy and make you feel complete. And then they'll start to feel the winds of change and think, gee, I better do something about this, or, we better make some decisions about us as a couple, because I don't want to lose Share. And, sometimes that's all it takes to move things along. Sometimes we approach the situation maybe in the wrong way of looking at it. Instead of, saying, well, okay, I'm restless, I need to look at the areas in my life that don't work. And if part of that is the relationship, well, we'll get to that, but let's look at the other things first. So I hope that's helped you, Shara, with your decisions moving forward. It is a very interesting time, as I said, with the full moon lunar eclipse, and it's going to bring a lot of things to the surface, like the situation Shara is in. It's sort of almost as if things are amplified, that we need to sort of get them sorted out yesterday. And of course, our heart goes out to the lady in London, in England, who has a friend that's gone AWOL for the moment. And there's a lot of people that are doing things that are out of character like that at the moment. And I think it's just a sign of the times, with the stress and the strain and the things that have gone on in this last 15, 16 months, that, sometimes people just want to get off the merry-go-round of life and just reset their lives, like we're all being asked to do at the moment, is, pause, stop and reset with this lunar eclipse and the full moon in Sagittarius. So whatever your reset is going to be in the next few days, it doesn't have to be drastic. It can be just something as simple as sort of saying, I'm going to take a little bit better care of myself. I'm going to put a little bit better nutrition into my body. Listen to what my body's telling me instead of pushing it when it's tired. Sit down and have a rest. I know that there's many of you out there that can relate to that you're just, such active people, and sometimes active people turn into workaholics and forget that rest and relaxation and doing something for yourself is equally as important, and so is sleep. Sleep is a little bit underrated in my household, but, I'm learning to listen to those sort of things. You get wiser as you get older, they say, so let's hope we all get wiser as we get older in this next week and enjoy the full moon lunar eclipse in Sagittarius. Until next week, bye for now.